Hi everybody, welcome back to The Silver Lining. I'm your host, Juliet Vine, Miss South Florida Fair 2020, and today I am so excited because I have someone so incredibly lovely and kind and gorgeous and amazing on my show today. Please welcome Miss Oregon 2019, Shivali Kadam. Hi Shivali.
Everyone. Hi, Juliet.
Thank you so much for being here today. Shivali has been nothing but accommodating, and I know she has such a busy schedule, but she's been dealing with me and the craziness of my schedule, so thank you so much for that. And I'm really excited to ask you some questions today.
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay, so my first question is when and how you first got involved with the Miss America organization, and what do you believe you learned along the way that led you to your Miss Oregon win?
So I got started in the Miss America organization back in 2016. I was actually a member of my college's female a cappella group, and one of the girls in the group was a local title holder. So she was Miss Lynn Benton 2015, and I actually ended up seeing her at an appearance just by happenstance, and I saw her in her gown and the crown and the sash, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's this? So I was immediately drawn to like that aspect of it, obviously, but when she started explaining the program to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually a program that is completely in line with, the woman that I want to be. I want to be a service-oriented woman. I want to give back to my community. I want to build those, sisterly relationships with women my age. So just all of it sounded amazing. So I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And I ended up entering Miss Lynn Benton 2016, that competition later that year, and ended up winning that, and then was hooked ever since. So it took me 4 years to earn the title of Miss Oregon. And I think really what separated my last year, which actually happened to be my last year of eligibility as well, from every year prior, was that I was just so at home with who I was. And I actually, in my private interview at Miss Oregon, I told the judges, they asked me, kind of the same question. They were like, so what's different about you this year than in years past? You've competed for 4 years now. And I looked at them and I said, honestly, I feel for the first time that I am just here to advocate for my values and to share my story and my perspectives. And if who I am and what I have to offer falls in line with who you all think Miss Oregon 2019 should be, then that'll be an amazing blessing and opportunity for me. But if it isn't, then that's okay, because there's going to be other opportunities for me in life. So I was just so sure of who I was, and I was so proud of that. And I think that came through.
Absolutely, and I like what you said in the beginning, how you were initially drawn to it by the allure of the crown and the sash, but upon entering the organization, you realize it's so service-oriented and so much more than meets the eye. Every girl I've talked to, I think it's really excellent to have these interviews because it delves into their stories, into how they got involved and what they're passionate about. So you guys are more than just beautiful girls. You are girls that are changing the world. So I really loved that answer. And 4 years, when I look at you or talk to you, someone that doesn't know you like me might think, oh, well, she probably won Miss Oregon on her first try, or maybe this was so easy for her, or maybe she, has been doing pageants her whole life. So it's inspiring to hear that you had to keep going and keep persevering to get the title.
And I'm glad. I am afraid to think about who I would have been if I had won on my first try. Yeah. Because I will say I needed to be humbled a little. There's that perfect balance of being confident with who you are and what you have to offer, but still having humility and knowing that you're fallible and, you're not always going to win. And I think that's probably one of the best lessons you can learn from competing in this program or in any program that's similar. Failure is inevitable if you are doing something that's challenging you. And it really comes down to how you deal with that failure that speaks to your character.
Absolutely. I think that the way you handle yourself after losing a competition, picking yourself back up, being gracious, and then, saying, what can I do? What have I done wrong and what can I do better? And I really like that you said, had I won my first try or my second try or third, I wouldn't have been the great Miss Oregon I am now. There are certain things I've improved upon. So this time was right for you. This was the perfect time for you to win.
Mm-hmm. That's really how I feel. And now, given the unusual circumstances, you always ask yourself, why me or why not me? And I ask myself that a lot, given that we are the first class to have this strange second year opportunity. And I just yeah, I had to believe like it was meant to be this way for a reason. And I'm trying to take every opportunity I can to kind of do service to the role that I've been given, because now it's doubled.
Absolutely. I was actually speaking to Miss Massachusetts yesterday, and she said the same thing. It's really cool for me to interview you guys because this is a very unique perspective from this class. And she said this is the strongest group of women I've ever met because we dealt with like a completely new Miss America competition, which I do want to talk about. In Connecticut, just a whole new format, whole new NBC network, and on top of that, we're dealing with a global pandemic and a 2-year reign. So you guys have been through a lot. It's really cool for me to get your unique perspective. So you guys are very strong women, and you get to live out your title twice, albeit unconventionally, but that's a really, really cool opportunity.
Absolutely. And that's how I see it. I'm like, this is an opportunity. It's really any title you have, whether it's a local title, the state title, or even Miss America, it is what you make of it. So there was probably about 2 weeks when, COVID hit and everything happened and everything just fell off of our calendars. I know that happened to me. I had a calendar full of appearances, like the most exciting ones of my reign, frankly, because they were related to my social impact initiative. And I think most girls wait until after Miss America to really like ramp up those appearances because you're so focused on competition before that. And within like 3 days, just literally everything was canceled. I was like, okay. So you throw yourself a pity party for about, maybe a day. But then it's like, okay, so this is still an opportunity. So how am I going to use it?
Absolutely. And you guys, it's not just like a state title is like super easy. I mean, whether you're local, state, or national, you have a big responsibility, but you're representing your state. That's a huge responsibility. And it's a fun job. It's a cool job. I'm sure I've never had the chance, but from what I've heard from all you guys, it's the best job in the world. I mean, I'm competing for one myself. I know. But it's tough. It's a lot of work, a lot of appearances. And I know some girls are going off to pursue other things, which is great and which is fine after their year was over. But what made you decide to choose to go a second year? Because some people might say, oh, that's a no-brainer, but knowing your ambitious career path, maybe you hesitated.
Right. So that was actually, I will say I had a lot of hesitation even competing for my first year because at the time and still today, I work full time. I work as a process engineer for an engineering firm. So in my state, in Oregon, my board was very accommodating and they made it clear that I would be able to manage my responsibilities as Miss Oregon and work full time. So they were very gracious in that regard. I know some states you are required to take time off of school or work, but I just was not in the position to do that financially. So I'm very grateful to them for, working with me and my needs. But yeah, it was a question I had to ask. And I asked myself because I didn't want it to just be like, oh, this is what, like, yeah, sure, I'll keep doing it. I wanted my second year to have as much direction and purpose as my first. And I think what really inspired me was when we were kind of in the middle of the quarantine. I don't know, maybe we're still in the middle right now. It's hard to say, but I will say a few months into the quarantine situation when we were all asking ourselves, like, what can we do appearance-wise that will give back to our communities? I started arranging these mock interview sessions for local title holders or even candidates in the Miss America organization. And we basically had Zoom mock interviews with 4 state title holders. And we were able to give girls mock interviews, feedback on their resumes. And the response from that was so overwhelmingly positive. And I mean, I would set up the links. I would have like 20, 30 sessions open and they would just fill up within the day. And
Wow.
I just was overwhelmed by that response. I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe a few girls will want, because we've been to Miss America. A lot of us have a lot of interview experience behind us. So it's always good to have that practice. But I mean, girls were they were so gracious for the opportunity. So seeing that made me realize like, okay, I still have a lot more to offer. And we only did that for about a month because, as you know, Miss America decided that it was not safe enough to hold the national competition, and then all of our state competitions were postponed. So once that happened, obviously mock interviews were not as in high demand, but I was like, this is obviously a service that is needed and there are needs not being met currently, and we can meet them very easily. So I was like, I want to do this again next year. I want to do it even bigger. I want to make sure that every girl who, is aspiring towards any title, local or state, has the opportunity to meet with women who have that experience. Because honestly, my first year, I didn't really know who to talk to get that kind of feedback. And then also, in addition to, offering that service, we actually asked, sorry, my cats are just, you guys, come on. um, we asked girls to donate $30 to Feeding America's COVID-19 response fund. So we raised about $2,500 within the span of, I think, 5 or 6 weeks. So it was literally in every regard. For us, it was so enjoyable because we were finally doing appearances. We were bonding with one another because we were, seeing each other in small groups several times a week. So there was a great bonding experience for the class of 2020. Girls were getting interview feedback, and then we were also raising money for a great cause. So that really inspired me to say, you need to be more creative. Like, the second year could be amazing if you just allow it to be and really open yourself to the opportunities in front of you. So once that happened, I was like, yeah, I want another chance. I want to do something else. Like, I want to make it bigger.
Absolutely. And if you're still doing that, even I am interested. I definitely want to talk to you about that after, because that sounds awesome. But it's really interesting to see how a lot of people create opportunities out of this unique time. Like, I started this show when quarantine first happened. Like, I just thought, how can I pass the time? Because, none of us knew how long this was going to be. I was back then, hoping so ignorantly that it would be short, like 2 months we'd be in here. And now
we were all on that page. We're like, okay, this is just like a little thing. It's going to pass.
Quick little 2-week like housebound stuff. Absolutely not. And I just thought this will be a small thing, like I'll just fill in the time, show people I'm making something. And then it became this thing where suddenly I had this plan to interview every girl from your class, your Miss America class. And it's launched into this amazing opportunity for me. I've learned so many lessons. I mean, truly, at the end of the day, I'm passing these on to anyone that views my show. But the wisdom I've, acquired from this is like truly incredible. Like, it's like a master class from each girl, like saying, this is what I did, how I got here. And so it's really cool to see how you developed this awesome business venture, helping your fellow sisters, in a really unique way. I mean, Zoom has become, at first it was like a joke, it was a meme, like everyone was like, we hate Zoom, but now it's all we do. And Zoom is how I take school right now. It's how I do my show. It's how you extended a business. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And I guess I just watched The Social Dilemma, so I'm like very wary of social media right now. But I right, yeah, I highly recommend anyone listening to watch it because it really touches on a lot of issues that are becoming very, very relevant.
That's on Netflix, right?
Yes, it is. But I mean, technology, man, like without it.
I watched it and she's like, I want to throw out my phone right now.
Yeah, there are moments where I was like, oh no. Like, but at the same time, I really think that we need to start viewing social media as less of a crutch and just more of a tool. And the way you and I have chosen to use it, it's been an amazing tool for us. We literally would not be able to have these conversations,
exactly,
opportunities without it. So, there's definitely pros and cons, but I think the documentary does a really good job of highlighting some of the cons that we aren't really aware of day to day.
I agree. And it's clear to see that you are very, very ambitious. I have a paragraph here written about your scholastic achievements and pursuits, so I'm going to read that and then follow up with a question. It is quite long, so I do have to read it because it's all fancy engineering stuff, and we don't do engineering in this house. None of us are math people. Okay. So you graduated from Oregon State University in 2018 with a degree in chemical engineering, and now you work as a chemical engineer for an SSOE group. And according to an article I read written about your win, you stated that your goal is to grow the next generation of female engineers and scientists, which is so impressive. I love that. And what better person to say that than a Miss America title holder? So what do you hope to do with all you've learned in the future through this degree? And what do you hope to do in your career path? And also, I'm going to point out that you won the Miss America Academic Achievement Award in 2018.
Yes, thank you, Miss America. More scholarship dollars are always appreciated. That's a great question. I am actually not sure. And I have to say that proudly because I think so often you look at, especially I guess state title holders or even Miss America herself, and you think like, oh, those girls have it all figured out. And I have some things figured out. I have a lot figured out, I will say. But as to sort of the trajectory of my career, I'm actually not sure right now. I'm kind of exploring different options. I actually just recently I am so sorry. Those cats.
I
Um,
actually have 3 puppies that run around here all
okay.
the time. So like I'm so used to it. It's not even funny.
They're usually at this time they're like sleepy and they're not that loud. So I didn't think I needed to like seclude them, but maybe I
I'm
should
just
have.
excited to hear about how smart their mother is. Like
Yeah, that's it. um, but I was going to say, like, I think there's this pressure that we feel as, high achieving young women that I would say everyone who joins this program is to like have it all figured out. And I think I wish more of us would just admit, like, I don't actually have it all figured out. So I'll be the first to say I don't have it all figured out. I'm very proud of the degree that I earned. I'm proud of the work that I'm doing now. But as to, like I said, my 5-year plan, I'm not really sure at the moment. This is what I was about to say. I actually re-enrolled at Oregon State as a post-bac student. So I am just taking some exploratory classes to hopefully find what area for graduate studies I might want to pursue, or just like where, what interests me going forward.
I actually really appreciate you being open with that because while I do not like want to be one of those people that's like, oh, that's a great story. Here's my similar story.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Um, but I really actually needed someone else, like someone that I look up to, someone that whose position I want to be in one day as a state title holder, to hear that, because it's so easy to look at them and be like, oh, they've got it all figured out, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's okay not to have that. Like I am a college sophomore, but I'm currently going through a complete shift in what I thought my career was going to be. And while I'm not even sure whether I'm going to go through with it or not, it's been a really big discussion, and it scared me because I've been doing this since I was 8,
Right.
and thinking that was my dream. And then I realized, but with everything that's going on with COVID, the world's changed, my
Mhm.
outlook has changed, my passions have changed. And it's hard to acknowledge that. I thought I knew what I wanted, and now I'm changing. And since I have a very unique major currently, my credits might not even transfer. So I might have to
What is
restart
your
as
major, if you don't
musical,
mind?
not at all, musical theater.
Okay, yes.
And
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really tough area to break into, especially right now.
exactly. Um, and my interests have shifted since I've started this to broadcasting and political science. I've been really passionate about talking to people, and I realized maybe I have a knack for this. And maybe since I'm not really quite flourishing in theater right now, or if theater's not quite flourishing, maybe I should consider my options and not completely abandon my dream, but just expand it. And
Right.
so that with that unique major, my credits might not even transfer. And it's scary to know, will I have to start over? What will I
Yeah.
have to do? So I actually think that's really nice, because I think that there are far more people that than might admit it that are struggling with change right now.
Mhm.
I think COVID kind of turned everyone upside down, and even without
Oh,
COVID,
absolutely.
people
Ab-
go through that all the time. Like my sister studied fashion merchandising in college and now is a criminal prosecutor. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
it just your dreams can change. So I actually really appreciate you telling me that right now. It kind of made me feel like, okay, there's someone out there in the world who's successful, who's
Girl, we're in it together.
exactly.
Yeah, and that's another thing we've talked about social media, you paint this beautiful picture, and that's one of the things that I've struggled with actually as a title holder. I feel like there's this pressure to like maintain this social media presence that's very strong and positive and, inspirational and aspirational. And sometimes you just don't feel that way. You don't feel any of those things, and you still have to like put up this front, it feels like. And so I've been trying to just be more honest when I don't know something. I just say like, I don't know. I'm doing my best to figure it out. And that's all really anyone can ask of me, but I don't have all the answers. And especially after this year, I feel like life has humbled me a lot. So I'm just taking the time needed to process that and to see, who I'm going to come out as on the other end.
You are a leader, and like I've said many, many times, you represent your state. That's a huge job, and there is this pressure for title holders to always be sunny, to always be positive. I have a show called The Silver Lining, so clearly that's an important, social front for me to put up. But I agree, being in your house, being in quarantine, doing everything over online, and straining, it's not always, easy to put up that front. And I think it's nice just to have a title holder be so candid about that. Like we have our off days too. Sometimes we don't know what we're going to post. We don't always have everything organized. You know, we don't wake up looking as flawless as you do right now. You know, there's a ring light and I have cats running around.
Right. Exactly. This is a very manufactured setting, I have to admit.
So I really do appreciate that. I've had some very candid conversations with a lot of the girls, and I think this is candid in a different way where you're saying, you know, even just besides Miss Oregon, me as Shivali is still figuring stuff out. You know, like
that's scary. I mean, you think, I don't, maybe you feel this way. You know, my parents, when you talk about like the generational differences, I'm 26 years old. I will be turning 27 in January. My mom had me, you know, she was married and she had her first child in that age range. So I'm just like, am I behind? Am I, you know, like you can't help but compare.
No, you are so young. It's not even funny.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to remind myself, like, that's when you compare yourself to other people, I'm like, well, why? Like, there's not like a timeline that was like set forth by nature that you have to do these things by this date. So I'm like, who's telling me that? And I think that's like the most important question I've asked myself when I have kind of spiral into that type of thinking. I'm just like, well, who asked, like, who told you that? Who told you it had to be that way?
Exactly.
And then usually it's like, I don't, yeah, no one that I really value their opinion, you know? So
when I was having like a total meltdown the other day, actually, like just like crying, like I was like, you know, Dad, I don't want to give up performing. It's my life's dream. It's my life's work. And, you know, it's what I love. I can't give it up. But I also want to think about what I think will make me the most successful and the most happy in my career. And he said, you're so young. You don't need to figure it all out. Like, let life happen. Just, you know, study what you want to study. And like even he said, take some courses that might interest you later on, you know, expand your knowledge, and then just take life as it comes and don't worry about it because you're so young and so successful. So I think it might be really comforting to a lot of people watching this, because I think most of my audience is younger, you know, being like, well, you know, she's literally Miss Oregon. She's brilliant. And even she has her off days and her petulant thoughts.
And right now I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I do not have a plan for the future. So if that brings assurance to anyone,
you heard it here first. She's keeping it real. And before I move on, I do want to mention, I mentioned your Miss America Academic Achievement Award, and I also wanted to point out that Shivali also won the Preliminary Interview Award at Miss America, which, if you guys know Miss America, interviews, probably second to talent, is the most important category, if not the most important now, with the score changes. So I just wanted to congratulate you on that and say that she got even more scholarship dollars from that, which was
really great. That was very exciting. And actually it was really exciting for Oregon as a state because it was our first prelim win in 10 years. So it was nice to, you know, you have the states that always kind of do well at Miss America, and then you have states that don't always make the top 15, don't always get recognized.
Off New York, yeah.
So it was really exciting to hear like Oregon, just like this, like even if it wasn't, you know, just the fact that Oregon was recognized, because I love my home state so much. So to bring that recognition home was just really special.
Yeah, I do want to say that I think even the girls that don't walk away with the Miss America crown, it's kind of a win-win because you get to go back and represent your state. And
exactly. There's literally, Miss America is the best situation to be in that regard, because you just can't lose. Because I think most of us are on the page where like, yes, being Miss America would be amazing, but I think really internally your goal is like, I want to be Miss State. Like I want to represent my home, my school, my community. And, you know, if that turns into Miss America, that's amazing, but I feel like most girls don't, like, it doesn't feel the same because it's not, you know, you don't have those same connections. So it's literally a win-win. Either you win Miss America or you go home with your dream job. So.
And I also do want to say that how appropriate for you to be having a little interview business here after you won preliminary interview, which is not an easy category to win. And I'm sure at Miss America it is very intense, and I can't even imagine what Miss America interview is like, because I think global interviews are scary.
Right. Well, this one, interestingly, it was unlike any other. So a few differences. I think most states have you like stand, right? Mm-hmm. And you usually have like 5 to 7 judges. So at Miss America this year, they only had 3 judges, and we were sitting across from them, like at a table. So that was it's a lot more similar to what like an actual
interview. Was that calming? Did that make it better for you?
I guess so. I think it made it a lot more personal because you were so much closer to them, and it really was like you were on the same level. Like, whereas I feel like when you're standing and there's more people, it almost feels like a little bit more of a performance. Like you're still being yourself, but it's just like different. It's like you're presenting versus like having a candid conversation like we are here. So I think that was an interesting shift. And especially because none of us had ever done that. Like every mock interview I did was like, based on the original format that we anticipated. So that was really an interesting change, but one that I personally, having these cats.
Your cats are doing the most. We love it.
Yeah, they're trying to get their spotlight in here. They're 15 minutes of fame. Anyone who's like done an actual interview, like in, the workforce, you're like, oh, this is actually better preparation for that. So I do appreciate that change.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I would imagine, I don't know how I would feel about that. I do think standing behind a podium is scary because you're so far apart from them, but then being up close to them too.
Right.
The anxiety. I definitely need Shivali's interview prep help, so she's going to be bombarded with questions after the interview about that. Next question. So your talent is vocal performance. When and how did you get into singing, and what piece did you perform for Miss America or Miss Oregon, and why?
So I started singing back in high school, my freshman year, because I'd done band up until that point. And then when you get to high school, they're like, okay, if you want to do band, you have to be in pep band. And I was like, all right, so what are my other options? So I was like, okay, I've always like enjoyed singing, just like, in the car, in the shower. So why not just do choir? And then, I don't know, I just fell in love with it. So I've been singing ever since. Like I mentioned before, I was in Oregon State University's female a cappella group. So that was a really, really,
cool,
really amazing experience. I met some of my closest friends through that. It's, for those of you who have seen Pitch Perfect, it's a lot like that, a little less dramatic, definitely less projectile vomiting.
Oh my gosh, a little Rebel Wilson, although we love her, there's probably not, many girls like her around. We wish. She's hilarious.
So and then naturally when I joined the program and I was like, oh, talent, obviously singing will be my talent. And at Miss America and for Miss Oregon, I sang Reflection from Mulan.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous.
I've always loved that song. It's actually funny. I remember in high school, it was my freshman year. So I was very shy in choir my first year. I was like, I don't really want to sing by myself. I barely really want to sing it with people. Like, I'm just very nervous about it all. Cause it is, it's very vulnerable when your voice is your instrument. It's like, you're really just laying it all out for judgment. Oh, yeah. So it took me a while to like get comfortable with that. So my first year, one of the songs we did was actually Reflection. For our like pops concert, and there was a solo at the beginning, and I just remember I'm like, I love this song, I really want the solo, but I can't, and I didn't even audition for it. So when I got to sing Reflection at Miss America and Miss Oregon, it really felt like that little girl who was so shy and nervous finally, found her voice quite literally on the national stage.
That is a full circle moment if I ever heard of one.
Right?
Like, able to sing, like audition for a choir solo, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to perform in front of millions of people now.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal. Character arc, we love that progress. And can I just say, from like being a choir kid myself for most of my life, the friendships that you make through choir are the best. But choir does have some drama. Like, I was a soprano one, and we have a reputation for being divas because we're quiet.
Oh, no, you should have started with that. No.
What were you? What section were you?
Like alto 1, soprano 2.
Yeah, you guys were the most chill of the group.
Here.
It was soprano and basses that were like the drama causers, but we don't need to.
You always got the melody. You were always the stars, and we're just over here like, all right, harmony, sure.
Oh, true. We did get the easy end of it, but that is a full circle moment, and that's actually so beautiful and like perfect because like you're a princess with a crown, and you're singing a princess song, and I love it. And I love
the message behind the song. For me, it just really resonated. Like, I think it resonates for a lot of young people just looking in the mirror and you're like, who is that? Like, who am I trying to be? Who have I been? Like, what parts of that do I like? What do I keep? What do I forgo in the future? So all of that introspection is something that I think really characterizes my time in the Miss America organization. So I was glad that I was able to have that song to kind of honor that journey.
Absolutely. And now this is my favorite question. I want to know what you felt like when you were crowned Miss Oregon 2019. First off, let me say I loved your dress. You looked beautiful and you look so happy. But I want to know, how did you feel in that moment? I know some girls can't remember anything, and I know some girls remember everything. So as much as you can relate to me, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it was surreal. So I had the experience. My first year, I was a non-finalist, so I did not even get to compete finals night at Miss Oregon. The next year, I was first runner-up, and then the year after that, I was second runner-up. So I'd always, for the last few years that I competed, I'd always been very like close, but
So
obviously
close.
he's so close, but not quite there. So when I was holding hands with my first runner-up, Allison Burke, I was like, okay, I I don't I don't want to like get excited because I've been literally in this position before and had it not quite worked out. And there was the added pressure of it being my last chance. You know, it was my last year of eligibility. So I was like, it's now or never. But I think in that moment, I just remember I just felt very calm. I mean, and that sounds insane because I was like, adrenaline was definitely going and I was sweating bullets. Like it was ridiculous.
It's more human anxiety than I think anyone should have to go through. Even just being called to the top 10 is like
Oh,
so
absolutely.
anxiety inducing. It's terrible.
And just the whole thing. But I think at that point, I'd been through so many emotions that I think I was just kind of exhausted. And I was like, whatever happens is meant to be. And I am at peace. Like if I age out as the first runner up, like that's still an amazing achievement. I'm going home with
Yes.
a lot of scholarship dollars. So there's nothing here that I'm like, I don't regret anything. So I
Right.
think that was really important before they called the winner. Like I was like, I don't have any regrets. I'm proud of the 4 years I've put into this program, and I'm looking forward to finding other ways of giving back in the future. So it didn't feel like an end. So that was kind of nice. But when it did come out that, you know, when they announced it, I was like, I don't know. It was like euphoric. Like it really was. When you work so hard for so many years, you've gotten so close, but just been, you know, something's held you back, to finally have that come to fruition. It was one of the best moments of my life. I won't lie. Like it was really, really amazing.
Yeah, and you kept persevering, and you were so gracious too, even saying at the end of it, like, even if this doesn't work out in my favor, even if I'm first runner up, I'm still walking away with all this money, all this experience, and
Mhm.
this really added something to my life. So you would have been happy for your first runner up, I'm sure, and
Exactly.
or if you were first runner up, and that's just a really gracious way to look at the experience, and that's probably why you won, is because you're someone that can be happy for others, but also can walk away saying, I accomplished something here. And people, overlook first runner up, I think, quite a bit, but it really is a huge accomplishment.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I think competing in general
Really.
is like, you are taking such a big step, you know, putting yourself out there for just the world to judge, and they do judge. You know, like that in and of itself is such an achievement that I don't think we celebrate enough. And then obviously making, you know, top 10, top 5, whatever that may be, winning a prelim, like all of those are so, you know, such beautiful moments, and they deserve to be. Yeah, first runner up always gets, it's kind of like, being a former first runner up, I know how it feels. But yeah, it's an amazing accomplishment and something that should be celebrated just as highly.
And like you said, you didn't even get to compete in finals night your first try. Then you leap up to first runner up, but then you're back down
Right.
to second runner up, and that must have been
Right.
like, when will I get it? And you still
Yeah.
persevered anyway. I'm sure that was frustrating though. I'm sure that was trying to be so close and then to still be so close, but a little bit less close than last
Right.
time. A whole
I
year
think,
of work.
and you know what's crazy to me is thinking, you know, going from, you know, a non-finalist to first runner up within a year. I think that just really speaks to, you know, the growth that you're capable of making in a year. When I look
Yes.
at girls who are like, oh, I've never really done well, I'm, you know, this, that, and the other thing, I'm like, no, like, trust me as someone who's been there. And, you know, my first year, I just didn't really have any sense of self. And I think I was just kind of going through the motions. I mean, I had no intention of winning state that year. I barely felt like I won my local. So it was really just like a learning year for me. But there's so much learning that can be done in a year. And I never want girls to discredit themselves for their prior placements. And I never want them to get too cocky for how they've done in the past. Because like every year, it's like you have a blank slate. To those judges, you are a blank slate. So what are you going to paint them?
I think that's actually excellent advice. I think there's like this myth in pageantry where a girl's like, oh, well, whoever's the first runner up the year before is going to win the next year.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-mm.
In is a
No,
clean
not at
slate.
all. It's anyone's game every year. And that's what makes it so exciting, right? Like if you could just predict how everyone was going to do all the time, like it's like, okay, well, that's, that's not very exciting. We got to spice things up a little.
Shivali is very spicy.
I try.
No, totally. I absolutely agree. And as my first year going into Miss, I think that's really good advice for me to hear is, oh, someone decided to print something during my interview. I'm so sorry.
Excellent. No, I feel good now. Now we both have some background noise to.
I think my father won't be able to watch this video because we know kill him. No, okay, and we're gonna not do that. Okay, well, no. Okay. So now Shivali feels much better about her cat situation.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you doing that. Just
I'm
to
not
make
even gonna edit that out because we're just like so real here. We're just no, but as my first year going into Miss, I feel like that's a really good thing for me to hear because I'll be competing against veterans who are competing 6-7 years, and
Right.
I'll feel like, what do I know? But it's all about a learning experience, growing experience. So, and definitely there's been some huge growth on your part. That's a huge leap, but you worked for it, and it's just a testament to how much an organization can change you.
Absolutely. And I really think that I mean, and it's easy for me to say because I kind of, I achieved the dream. I got to be Miss Oregon and Miss Oregon. So it's easy for me to say, but I hope girls choose to focus on that growth because the skills that you develop, if you really put in the effort in this program, will carry you so far beyond, far beyond your 20s, far beyond your first or second job. Like I have to say the interview skills that I've developed alone have been instrumental in establishing my career. And that payoff is, it's just completely different than what you can envision when you're 18 and competing for the job of Miss State. So just understanding that all of that work you're doing, even if you don't achieve that dream title of yours, it's not wasted. It will be rewarded in one form or another in the end.
Absolutely. The lessons I've learned just already through my work as a teen and serving my first local Miss title, it's just, I know that when I carry that out into the world, like the interview skills I've learned and the etiquette skills and selling my platform, selling my resume, it's all going to go well for me. So I'm very, very grateful. And speaking of selling yourself and selling your social impact initiative, I want to know all about yours. I know that's very important to you. So tell me all about it.
Yeah, so my social impact initiative is called STEM Powered. And basically, it's been really tough with COVID because the bulk of my social impact initiative is getting into the schools and doing outreach activities to get young students inspired about STEM. And I have an executive position in a nonprofit organization called Women in Science Portland. So I am the head of our outreach and education committee. Unfortunately, in the last few months, we have had not any, to be honest, events because schools in Oregon have been shut down. So we are exploring more virtual options at the moment, but we've been able to partner. We have some upcoming partnerships with like the Girl Scouts of Oregon. STEM Like a Girl is another local organization in Oregon. So really reaching out to those other nonprofits and seeing how we can collaborate during this very strange time has been again, kind of like stretching my skill set, which I really enjoy. And yeah, it's been really rewarding. It's unfortunate that we don't get to be in front of students doing our demonstrations, educating them about our careers and seeing their faces light up when we, do a really cool demo. They're like, wow, this is amazing. But we're doing our best to sort of mimic that virtually. So we'll see in the coming months how that works out.
Absolutely. I'm sure it must be very different, and I'm sure you're doing everything you can. I do want to ask, what phase are you guys in Oregon? We're still in phase 1 over here in South Florida. How are you guys doing? Are you guys getting close to being in person with each other, or is it still like quite
So it's really county by county, but for the most part, our restaurants are open, so you can, dine in a restaurant. They just have, a much reduced capacity. So everyone has to be 6 feet apart. You have to wear masks absolutely everywhere, which when you're indoors at least. And then I think I just looked this up for my county, social gatherings. It's like, if you're indoors, it's like 10 people restriction. If it's like more of like an event, like sanctioned by like a church or other organization, you can have up to 25 people. which is obviously still not very many. I'm still working from home. So I think most people are still working from home as well. So we're not as shut down as we were. So that's kind of nice. Like you still get your dose of human contact, but it's obviously not at the level that we would like or that we're used to.
Of course not. And it must have been a really big shock for you. I mean, 3 months earlier competing at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut in front of millions of people, and then all of a sudden 3 months later you're housebound completely.
It's crazy. And it happened so quickly.
It's
That's
really
what
good.
really just gets me. I'm like, it really happened in the span of just a few days where
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, okay, I keep hearing about the coronavirus. I know it's bad in like Italy, especially. So I was really following that, but but within like 2 days later, I swear I was like, oh my gosh, like
It's here.
yeah, I got the call from like, we went into work that Friday and they're like, you're not coming back to work on Monday. And we're like, oh, okay. So okay, cool. That's great. We're going to figure this out. So,
Well, yeah, it is crazy, but I do see that you are a very positive person, and you are an opportunist, which I really, really like. You say, here's my situation, not ideal, but here's what I'm going to do with it, and I'm going to create something out of it.
I'm just stubborn. I think that's what it comes down to. I'm like, no, I am going to do the things I want to do. And if I have to get really creative, then so be it. So I think that stubbornness has been a useful quality to have in this ordeal.
I think creativity is probably the most essential quality that someone can have,
Oh,
resilience
absolutely.
and perseverance. So, and you've taken this very unique challenge in your year where most people, or many people, might have been like, oh, that really stinks, now I
Mm-hmm.
can't go out and do what I want, but you were like, no, I've got a second year to make more of a difference. And
Yeah,
that's
in a way, it's almost, I don't know, it's not the same type of impact, obviously, but it's interesting because it is a different in a different way, kind of a similar magnitude. I'm reaching
yeah,
out to organizations that I might not have thought to do. And now,
exactly.
I don't actually have to travel. So I'm actually a lot more efficient about appearances where, if you can just hop on a Zoom call, give your presentation, meet with people virtually and then hop off and just, go back to your other thing. Like that's actually very convenient. So I actually think that virtual appearances, I hope that they still play some form, like comprise some form of a percentage of the appearances that Miss Oregon does in the future because they're very convenient.
And I was even saying to my mom, because right now I love online school. Like I do miss campus, but the conveniency of it, like I feel so much more focused. I have everything laid out in front of me, like in one place. I don't need to walk back and forth. It's kind of like I can study in between classes, and there's just time is money, and I'm just making so much more progress. So it makes me wonder. Of course, there's going to be some on-campus events I will attend, and I do want some of that normalcy because I feel like I'm always in this room, but how much of it will be online? How much of our world will change after this? It's really crazy to think
That's the question.
many of your appearances might be virtual even as things get better. Much of my online schooling, probably will stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just our world has changed, but we're making the most of it. And I can see that you are very positive, and that's why you're perfect for this show. And so, as you know, my show's title is called The Silver Lining, which is about finding the great in every situation. And I want to know what your silver lining is. What do you believe to be the best part of your journey thus far?
I think my silver lining would be, so I kind of have a life motto or a quote that I like to live by, and it's that you should be the person that you needed when you were younger. And I think whenever I feel very overwhelmed or I feel disappointed that I'm not doing enough or anything like that, any of those negative emotions that are so natural, I just remind myself like how far I've come and whatever I'm doing is still fulfilling that, like that life's mission. And like it's always been so grounding to me to be like, okay, but are you still being the person you needed when you were younger? Maybe you aren't doing it as much as you wanted or as, effectively today, but like, are you still on that path? And the answer has always been yes. Like, yes, I am. And I'm still remembering that little girl, and I want to, honor her and the struggles that she went through. And make sure that, other girls don't struggle in the same ways if I can help it. So that's kind of been the foundation of my social impact initiative.
I wrote it down. I hope you didn't think I was being rude.
No.
And I love that.
Yeah. And, it's the foundation of all my service work. It's why I put in so much, people ask me all the time. They're like, you're working full time, you're, you know, in your like late 20s, like why do you still do so much volunteer work and things like that? And I'm like, because I feel like that's my purpose. Like I feel like I have so much privilege, and I've made this, you know, I'm very grateful for the journey that I've had, and I want to help other girls embark on theirs. So that's always been a silver lining. No matter how bad things get, I'm like, okay, it's okay, because your purpose is higher than this one moment or this one setback or this one disappointment.
That is a beautiful answer. I really love that. And you must be such an inspiration to so many young women and men, and you are an inspiration to me. And you did mention earlier that, you know, being in this very unique quarantine situation makes you do things that you never thought you'd do, reach out to people that you never thought you'd reach out to. And you may not believe this, but I was like scared. I was like, I don't want to reach out to these state title holders because they don't know me. And, you know,
Right.
but of course you were so kind to me, so generous. And, you know, how can I help you? Like, what can I do? You know, and let's work together. And I really do appreciate that. It's a testament to how like kind and, you know, classy all you girls are. And I really appreciate you being here today. You've
Oh, thank you
imparted.
for the opportunity. Like, I applaud you, because as a local title holder, this is literally something I never would have done. Like, I'm truly, like, it would have, like you said, terrified me. And I, I honestly, I didn't feel comfortable putting myself out there the way you have. So that is really a testament to your confidence and your creativity. And when you asked me, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl's amazing. Like,
Oh,
yeah, no, seriously. And to take the time to create a product that's going to, you know, not just elevate young women in our program, like their voices and their stories, but hopefully, you know, be a benefit to the greater world. Like, I really appreciate that. And I think your mission is very beautiful.
thank you. And I love that quote, be the person that you needed when you were younger. And I was thinking when I was creating this, when I was first entering the system at 14, you know, 5 years ago, I would have loved to have had the wisdom of these girls that I look up to, like to listen to them and figure out this system. Because, you know, it seems simple, but it's really not. There's a lot of.
No, not at all. And when you don't have, like, I went into it with like that one friend that I, you know, knew that competed. But other than that, like my parents didn't know anything about pageants. Like, I was really on my own. So if there were more resources like this available, like, I think it would have made my transition so much easier. And I think that's what we need, you know, moving forward, you know, into the 100th year and beyond. We need more resources so that girls, even if they're just on their own, searching the internet, they come across something like this, they're like, this sounds interesting. Like, maybe I can do it. So if
Absolutely.
you're one of those girls listening to this, yes, you can, and you should.
You heard it from Shivali. Yes, you can, and you should. If we can do it, then
Absolutely.
anyone can do it. I mean,
Exactly.
believe me,
True.
I didn't know anything. Like, literally, I thought pageants were like toddlers and tiaras. And
Oh, yes, exactly. Growing up, I was like, oh, no, thank you. I didn't know any better.
one of my best friends from childhood loves to remind me of the 7th grade PowerPoint I made about why pageants are bad for you.
No.
She loves to bring up that story. I'm like, because I thought it was like 4-year-olds in wigs. I didn't know that it was like amazing, powerful career woman, and she loves
personal growth.
and that's on personal growth. And Shivali, you are amazing. You are so beautiful, so kind, so humble. And I really do appreciate you coming on my show today. It's been an honor to talk to you and to meet you. You are awesome.
So much fun. I love it. We're just two girls chatting.
2 queens, and a few cats and a printer. Very long title. If you guys aren't following Shivali, you need to do it like right now. I'm gonna make sure you do. After we hang up, I'm gonna watch you. So make sure you get that done. She's amazing and inspiring and so candid and just someone you should be definitely looking up to. Shameless plug, follow me because, well, please follow me. We hustle out here. And,
I second that. Follow her.
and I can't wait to talk to you more in the future, Shivali. You know I'm going to be hitting you up for some much needed pageant advice.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.